Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, that subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. As I say every single time, it hugely helps out the channel. I can never express that enough, so thank you so much if you are doing these things. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story was a suggestion on Twitter. It's a story with an update. It's from Work Mistress or Real, who says, me, 22 female, with my boyfriend, 24 male, and his personal boundaries with his work girlfriend, 21 female. Throwaway, as I don't want this on my usual account. My boyfriend and I have been together for about a year and a half now. We met at work, hit it off great, and now living together. We work for the same company, but at different locations. We generally have a good relationship, fights here and there like all couples, but have been going through a bit of a rough patch lately due to finances from moving in and whatnot. Although my problems lie within his work girlfriend. My company has several locations and he is an assistant manager that floats from location to location whenever someone calls in sick. But he is based out of this particular store and works 3 of his 5 days at this store. About a month ago, this girl transferred from a different state into his base store. She works with him on 3 days that he is at the store, so they see each other often and for long periods of time. Generally, it is usually just the two of them and an additional person working. They text each other sometimes, but it has been usually about work-related things, but lately, when I go on his messages, we're pretty lax about phones with each other. I see them talking about other things like hobbies and things of the like. It didn't bother me because I understood that she was new to the state, and from what he told me, she didn't really know anyone besides the co-workers at the store. Until I realized that he downloaded Snapchat and that she was his #1 best friend, and they were on an 8-day snapping streak. I know it sounds stupid, but I'm a huge Snapchatter. I mostly only use Snapchat for social media and I've been begging him for the longest time to download it, only to have him tell me that it was a waste of time and then I see that he downloaded it for her. When I confronted him about it, he shrugged it off and said it wasn't that big of a deal. I didn't want to push the issue because we have been going through a tougher time lately and I didn't want to make it worse than it already had been. I thought that I was just being insecure because she is honestly stunning, so maybe it was a bit of jealousy behind it. Today, I saw her name pop up on his phone, and when I opened the message, I saw that he agreed to pick her up from the airport on Sunday. We had made plans to go to family's party on Sunday, which is about an hour and a half away from the airport. He said he was planning to leave my family's early so he could pick her up and they could hang out afterwards. When I asked him about it, he said once again, he didn't think it was that big of a deal because she has no romantic interest in him and that he was being nice by hanging out with her because she's new and that I was overreacting. I am livid. Am I in the wrong here? Now, alarm bells were ringing most of the way through this to me. I'm not saying you can't have co-workers of the opposite sex or anything like that. Absolutely not. But we got to that airport thing that he agreed to pick her up on Sunday when you was going to a family party on that Sunday. And it's an hour and a half away from the airport. You know, that sounds like that's someone that's pretty important to him that he wants to do that. And it's not like he was going to come back to the party afterwards, like drop her off then come back. He was going to hang out with her, so he was going to completely ditch your family like that after you've already made these plans. I think that's pretty significant to me. But Inspector Gadget says you are underreacting. None of this is acceptable. Sure as hell not picking her up from the airport, especially ditching your family party to do so. If it were about her just being new in town and not knowing anyone, he and she both would have made a huge effort for her to be your friend too. Instead, he's well entrenched in an emotional and possibly physical affair. Bravo says the fact that he would even suggest that he is going to leave your family's party early to hang out with this girl is just totally out of bounds. How can he say something like that? Also, I don't use Snapchat, but if my girlfriend was taking pictures non-stop for some guy that wasn't me, I would be worried and we would talk about it. OP, somehow you have not gone crazy yet. I suggest you sit your boyfriend down and tell him how you feel about him ditching you and your family to be with this girl. If he still wants to pick her up from the airport after listening to how you feel, I would just dump him. End of story. Argento says he's just being nice, and then says by Snapchatting with this knockout girl that he works with, lol. You are right to be pissed. He's got a girlfriend. Why does he need to be running around with this chick who he only met last month? Jacob says your boyfriend has one foot out the door already and is looking to put the other out if this girl is attracted to him. You don't drive 1.5 hours to pick someone up unless he or she is very important to you. People are as faithful as their options. Your boyfriend is trying to expand his options. Don't waste your time with this lowlife. A deleted user says, if my boyfriend tried to tell me he was planning on leaving my family party to drive 1.5 hours to hang out with a girl he's been flirting with, I would tell him not to bother coming back. I think if he acts like this, you don't have a relationship anymore. There's no way he thinks this is really okay. I think he just doesn't care what you think so much anymore. And one more from TL Paradise who says he's planning to break up with you as soon as he locks it down with her and disentangles himself from your finances. You move in together and suddenly you are the hard commitment option, and he's found a new fling to dote on. And now, with that information, let's go to that update to find out what happened next. So the update says, first off, I want to say thank you to everyone who read and commented on the post. I read all of them, even if I didn't reply. I've been really busy since I posted that, so I didn't have time to update, but some of you guys PM'd me for an update. I sat down with my boyfriend the morning after I posted that and asked him about his relationship with his co-worker and how I felt like he wasn't being friendly with her but overly flirtatious, and that it was weird and suspicious, and that I saw his text about him picking her up and it did not sit well with me at all, especially since he never planned on telling me and that he was going to leave my family's event early. He looked annoyed, but eventually admitted to me that he developed a crush on her because she was the opposite of me and was fun and easy to talk to, and I wasn't. Also, that she put effort into her appearance and I didn't. I admit that I got really upset after this and refused to talk to him, so I left and went to my best friend's house after that for the night. He didn't even text or call. My best friend and her boyfriend were freaking amazing. They ordered some wings, told me that they never really liked him because he always seemed lukewarm to me, like I was just a friend, and watched some Hulu with me. I remember when I was younger, my mum had gotten out of a really bad relationship and told me to never settle for someone who didn't look at me like I put the stars in the sky. Seeing how awesome and amazing my best friend's boyfriend was to me, even when he could have easily left, and how they were to each other just made me realize I was better off single than to be with someone who would rather put more effort into a crush than into a 1.5 year living relationship. In the morning I went back and he was sitting on the couch. He asked if I was feeling better and if I still needed some space. I told him that I wanted to break up and that I would be moving out soon. I said that I would pay for my half of next month's rent. He didn't even look fazed. He just nodded and got up to leave. I was trying my absolute hardest to be stoic about it, but kind of failed after I saw how nonchalant he was. I don't know if he went to pick her up or not, but I went to my family's event and tried to have a good time, even with all the questions about where he was. I've been packing and moving back in with my parents during the times I know he's at work. We haven't even talked since, besides to talk about financial stuff and housing situations. I've been fighting the urge to really cuss him out and just to ask why he seems so neutral about this. I've really been a huge wreck, but I've been a firm believer in living well is the best revenge. I've been trying to keep busy to keep my mind off it, but it sucks a lot sometimes, especially at night. Sorry if this dragged on, it just felt good to write it all out. And we do have a final update to this as well, which starts off with, I really wasn't planning on updating at all after that last post, but I had to update. I mentioned in the first post that my ex was a floater for our company. Floaters are very common in our company because we have lots of stories. It turns out that his work girlfriend became one as well, and while I was working, she came in and filled a shift for one of my co-workers. At first, I was planning on just ignoring her except for work-related things because I figured from her reaction of me. I didn't think she recognized me or even knew who I was, and I didn't want a confrontation by asking her. But it got slow and we started talking. We were asking general questions about each other, and I mentioned that I had dated Corey, not his real name, and that he had worked at her base store. She looked genuinely shocked. She mentioned to me that she had no idea that he had a girlfriend, but that he only had a roommate that worked for the same company. and wherever he referred to my name, she assumed he was referring to the roommate. I didn't get that feeling at all, that she would be lying to me about this, and if she is, she would be acting. Anyway, I was so pissed that I ended up just telling her what was going on and why we broke up. I told her about the Snapchat thing and she apologized because she didn't know he wasn't that into Snapchat. She showed me her best friends list and he wasn't even on her list. However, next to his name on her contacts, there was that face/icon where you're someone's best friends list, but they're not on yours. Also, she asked for everyone's Snapchat because she prefers snaps over everything, and if they don't have one, she tells them to download it. She had a score of 30,000 or something equally as large. Then I told her about the airport thing and how we handled it, and she apologized and said she wouldn't have asked someone's boyfriend had she known he was dating someone. And get this, the only reason she asked my boyfriend was because the guy she was talking to, interested in, was out of town. She never mentioned that she was dating anyone to him, but was because she doesn't like to talk about her love life that much, but she ended up just asking one of the other co-workers to pick her up. She also mentioned that the reason she became a floater was that another one of the assistant managers at her base store was getting too flirty with her and she didn't like it. She then started going off about how she hated guys like Corey and how could he do that to me. She thought he was just being nice to her since he was one of the first people she met since she moved. I can see how she would mistake his flirting as niceness, now that I think about it, since he sucked at flirting. From my impression of her, I could tell how Corey would take her friendliness as flirting. She was really nice and friendly. I didn't hold any resentment towards her before, but I definitely don't now. Oh, and she's a girl's girl, and me? Well, I'm almost moved out and I feel a lot better about my decision, and with the breakup after meeting his work girlfriend. I still haven't talked to him at all. And what do they usually say in situations like this? That OP dodged a bullet, basically. I find it amazing that this guy was in a real stable relationship. Sounded like he had a loving girlfriend, although they had their issues, and then attached himself to a work colleague like this who sounds like, unless she was like trying to just get out of it and she felt awkward about it, but it sounds like she really wasn't that interested in him and she was interested in someone else. And I do wonder, it'd be like, we've had updates before where like the boyfriend or the other person replies to him. It'd be very interesting to get his side of things on this story. But what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Throwaway Quick Advice, who says, am I the arsehole for refusing to let my stepson, 17, have a PowerPoint project display in honor of his deceased mum at my wedding? Basically the title. My fiance, 42, and I, 36, are getting married before the end of this year, 2022. He has a son, 17, from his former marriage with his late wife who passed away from cancer. I'd like to think that my stepson and I have a good relationship. However, he is the most sensitive and emotional kid I've ever met. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it does make it difficult for me to deal with him sometimes. He said he has already prepared a PowerPoint project in honor of his mum and is planning on playing or displaying it at the wedding. This was an instant no for me for many reasons. My fiance said we should let him because he just wants to remember and honor his mum. I told him that this occasion, the wedding, has nothing to do with my stepson's mum, so I'm not sure why I put a whole PowerPoint project there at the wedding about her. It takes away guests' attention and makes them confused. My fiance said we have to respect his son's wishes and also said he'll pay for the screen and everything. We had a huge fight about it and I refused to even consider it. The whole thing is just a no-go. I even offered to have maybe a few pictures or a seat as alternative, but my stepson isn't having it. Things have been pretty tense now. My stepson isn't talking to me. My fiance just keeps trying to guilt me into saying yes, and it's all just making me feel overwhelmed. Am I the arsehole for refusing to make this happen? My fiance commented saying my refusal is an indication that I have an issue with my stepson's mum and that I am being unfair to him since he spent so much time and effort to prepare this project that obviously means a lot to him. Side note, this isn't about my stepson's mum. I don't have any negative feelings towards her. In fact, I think she was a fighter. Battled cancer not once but twice. She played a huge role in what my fiance has become now, and I'm so grateful for that. Edit. I'm sorry, I wanted to put a link for something but failed. I was trying to show the size of the screen my fiance showed me earlier. About my stepson's grief. When I first met him, he seemed to keep to himself and not attend any family functions, even when inside the house. He avoids spending time with family, is quiet most of the time, and doesn't really talk much. I suggested therapy, but my fiance said he mentioned this once to him, and his son yelled at him, telling him to stop acting like there was something wrong with him by bringing up therapy. My fiance stopped bringing it up, and whenever I tried to mention it again, he'd shut me down hard. Now, as I was reading through this, I was trying to think of various compromises and stuff like that, and you came up with the compromise that many people go down the route of, and I think it was more than enough, a chair, a seating place for mother to respect her like that. And I'm trying to I always try and step into different people's shoes when I read these stories, that, and I'm trying to imagine myself as a guest at this wedding. And whilst I understand, son wants to show respect for his mother, this is not the place to do it in my opinion, and I think it would put everyone on edge whilst this was happening. I don't know if it's being done at speeches or it's just something that sits there all day scrolling through or whatever, but I really don't feel like it's appropriate in this situation. And as I say, people grieve in a whole bunch of different ways, but I think the son needs to understand, it's just not appropriate. But Parsimonious Salad says a PowerPoint presentation about his mother sounds like a great idea for a memorial dinner and event on his deceased mother's next birthday. It's not appropriate for your wedding, not the arsehole, and your fiance doesn't have his perspective straight if he doesn't see this. Half-Life says he can play it at his own wedding where it would be appropriate. It's not appropriate at yours. The fact that neither of them is able to see this tells me they are not done grieving and this wedding is premature. Postpone, not the arsehole. We got magic to do says not the arsehole. If I were a guest at this wedding, I would be wildly uncomfortable. Till says not the arsehole. You have the right to make the day about your current love with your fiance, not to feel like you're living in his deceased wife's shadow. I don't think the kid is an arsehole. I think the wedding is making his grief come back to the surface, but your husband kinda is. Sit down with your stepson and ask him to show you the slideshow. As you go, ask him to tell you stories about his mum and all the wonderful things he remembers about her. Then tell him that she sounds like she was a wonderful person and she deserves to be remembered in her own context, and propose that you have a memorial service on a given day this year, say the anniversary of her death or her birthday, where she can be truly celebrated. Maybe set this as a month or two before the wedding for your sake. Suggest that this be a special party that he plans, with help if needed. Then say, I know you wanted to play this at the wedding, but it's beautiful and it really deserves to be used at a celebration that is about your mum, not a party to celebrate your dad and me. Let's use this for our memorial service instead. In other words, affirm his grief and give him an outlet for the work he did, but stand firm, and don't let your fiance be a part of that conversation. Separately, let him know that this was a shitty way to handle his son's grief and that it made you feel disrespected and less than. And now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? How would you feel if that was being played at a wedding you attended? What if you was OP in this situation? Would you be comfortable letting that play at your wedding? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Sensitive Home Cook, who says, am I the arsehole for exposing my girlfriend when she made my grandma's cake? My 26 male grandma passed away less than a year ago. She had a recipe book with all her recipes handwritten with full details that she wanted us to have so we could keep eating her food after she left us. Her and I were the cooks of the family and we often cooked together, so I kept it. However, I haven't made any of her recipes since she left us. I will do it, but not yet. Last Saturday, my girlfriend, 25 of 6 months, was at my place and had a look at my grandma's recipe book. She asked if she could take some pictures to get recipes and I said sure. Grandma would be proud to share it. This weekend she invited me and some friends for dinner, all cooked by her. For dessert, she brought what she called her signature chocolate biscuit cake. When I first saw it, I thought, that's my grandma's cake. But since my girlfriend kept saying that it was her original recipe, I guess she just took some inspiration or googled something similar. When I tried it, I couldn't stop the tears coming out my eyes. That was 100% my grandma's go-to cake. Birthdays, Christmas, family gatherings, you name it. Even on the times we'd buy an already made one, we still had her cake too. Non-negotiable. Everyone was like, what's wrong? Are you okay? And I couldn't stop crying like a baby, saying that was my grandma's cake and telling my girlfriend that she had nailed the recipe. Her friends teased her a bit about she bragging about her signature cake, but it wasn't a big deal as they all loved it and congratulated my grandma for her amazing recipe, and my girlfriend getting it right too. But when people left, my girlfriend went off on me for exposing her in front of her friends. She thinks I should have let her take the credit and shut up, but it's not like I chose to start crying in public either. Now she isn't speaking to me. Am I the arsehole? Now it's one of those situations, obviously not the arsehole to me in this situation at all. It's one of those ones that I come into it and I think, what was the girlfriend's end game on this? That she thought you wasn't going to recognize that cake, you wasn't going to recognize that recipe that you said that you've had at birthdays, Christmas, family gatherings, all these different times. That you wasn't going to recognize that recipe and it wasn't going to have some kind of effect on you, or you wasn't going to question it. And it sounds like you didn't even know about it anyway. You didn't know she was lying because you said that you congratulated her and said like she nailed the recipe. So you was giving her praise more than anything. You wasn't upset that she went out and made your grandma's signature cake or anything like that. It brought you memories of your grandma, which I think is a lovely thing, and hopefully it didn't upset you too much. But the fact that she took it for her own, she lied to her friends, this is totally on her. 100% not the arsehole. And, you know, the fact that she isn't speaking to you, what'd you say about that? What'd you say about someone's character who does that? Cheesecake Hungry says, okay, not the arsehole times 100. Your girlfriend is a liar for 1, and you're never the arsehole for exposing a liar. And for 2, how dare she claim your grandma's alive or past recipe as her own? That's so disrespectful to your family. Osa Bear says, hey, was a cook for 10 plus years, not the arsehole. Your girlfriend unfortunately is the arsehole for trying so hard to call it hers. Here's the deal. The world is quite divided amongst people who believe this kind of stuff is no big deal and those who invest way too much energy into gatekeeping lasagna. I feel like when it comes to any food related recipes, how-tos, etc., it all depends in your specific case. You had no issue sharing your grandma's recipe with someone you cared for, even thinking, sweet deal, grandma's cake, heck yeah. However, the moment she decided to purposely be dishonest and lie about her writing it, that's just wrong and honestly pretty immature if you ask me. The intent is what makes her the arsehole. She took something she probably knew was good, either by you reminiscing about it, pics, what have you, enough to be impressively delicious, and wanted time to credit the effort it took to formulate it. She could have still had her spotlight if she had just introduced it as boyfriend's grandma's cake. He says it's amazing, I had to try it. Then after that, compliments to the chef. And then for her to be mad, you had an emotional response. It's a definitive answer that yes, she only wanted the recipe for clout and positive image, and not for anything else. Us cooks live for that. Having someone taste something so close to memory then cry, it's like a cook's medal. I'm glad she made a good cake, but grandma gets credit and your girlfriend is being ridiculous. If this is the hill she's willing to die on, time to see if this attitude is something you're okay with for the future. Good luck, OP. And I think that comment pretty much said it all. So now I'm going to turn it to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? I know how we have many cooks, bakers in the chat, in the community. You've shown me your cakes and stuff on Twitter before. I always love to see it. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support and time always means the absolute world to me. Thank you so much for what you do, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today